Look at all these people waiting for me. Alright, so how do we end up here? Well, great question. I don't even know. Spur of the moment thing. So we're here in Ho Chi Minh City, previously named Saigon, pre-Second Indochina War, or the American War. So, I need to go find a way to get a grab and get to my hotel, but I am, at this point, a little bit confused. There's too many people. I feel like I'm going to get pickpocketed if I'm not careful, so I'm going to go find, this is a grab station. So I'm going to see if I can order a grab and we'll get to the hotel and we'll go from there. Alright, so we just got to the hotel. Sit in the background. Now it's time to go see things. Alright, so here we are in Ho Chi Minh City. It used to be called Saigon before the Vietnam War, when it was reunified with the North on the 30th of April. So we're going to go see a few sites. This place is really rich with history. There's way too many things for me to talk about, but what I think we're going to do is I'm simply just going to walk around, and when I see things, I'm just going to go point out those facts to you guys. But just going to walk around the city. If there's anything I've already noticed about the place, you've all probably known it, and you've all probably seen it online already, but traffic is chaos, and there's bikes everywhere, so look at all those bikes. You can see Vietnam's still one of the only communist countries left in the world. There's actually a cross light here, so that's going to make things a lot more simpler for me rather than risk it and big balling the traffic, because that's what you're supposed to do at some of the other stops, some of the other crosswalks. They have it, green cross light. And now something that me and the boys realized last time we came to Southeast Asia, we're in Singapore, and we're overprivileged in Australia, is that the walk signs have that ba 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 sound when it's time for you to walk. And so we would get lost in looking at all the buildings and admiring the architecture, and we would miss 3 or 4 green walk lights because we're not paying attention, because we're so used to it making a noise. And what on earth is this? Is that the Avengers building? There is no way. Well, that's something I didn't expect to see. Didn't realise that paying a visit to Tony Stark was an option. Maybe if we're lucky, we may be invited to one of his penthouse parties. But yeah, there's bikes everywhere. And you can see a lot of the buildings around here. I mean, I haven't been to France, but I've seen pictures of France. They're all got that French colonial design. Most of the old ones do, because Vietnam used to be a French colony. And so it was occupied by the French in the 1800s. And we'll go more into that throughout the other videos. What I think I'm going to do is, this is going to be a series. I'll probably do it day by day, because there's way too much stuff to go into with Vietnam. But essentially we're starting here. Our first stop here is, what is this? Someone's left some dong on the ground. It's my first Vietnamese dong. Actually, that's a good point. I actually need to get myself some money, because cash is king around here. So they always want to be paid in cash, is what I've heard. So I'm going to go find an ATM. There's a specific ATM that I'm supposed to go to that has the lowest exchange rates and the least transaction fees. So that's what we're going to do. So there you have it. It's the Avengers building. We're going to pay Tony Stark a visit. Go and have a beer few bevies with Thor. It's amazing. Alright, so we know the next location of the Avengers movie. But right now, I'm trying to make my way to the post office. We're going to wait for these guys. And we're going to go. Alright, let them go by. You really just need to walk at a constant pace here. And you need to be predictable. You can't slow down, can't hesitate. Otherwise, they will run you over. So, first port of call is to get myself some dong. Now, I know you saw me just pick up 1,000 dong off the floor, and you probably think, wow, how lucky is he? Well, for your own knowledge, that dong I just picked up, that 1,000 dong, is equivalent to about 5 cents Australian. So I don't think it's going to get me far. But once I find an ATM, I'm going to go and fill up my bum bag, my dong bag, and that should get us a bit further than that 1,000 dong. It's a cool looking hotel. It's got a sky bar on the top. We might go have a drink there at the end of the day. But I don't want it too late of a night tonight, because tomorrow morning I've got a very early tour. We're going to go see where the Australians were based when they were sent over here to Vietnam at Nui Dam. And we'll also go and talk about one of the most significant contributions to the war the Australian Army had. It was the Battle of Long Tan. So we don't want to stay out too late, so we might have a chill drink up there this evening. But today we're heading off to, firstly, the Notre-Dame Cathedral and the Saigon Post Office, both created by the French when they occupied Vietnam in the 1800s. And so that will be our first destination, and then we're going to go take a look at some of the Vietnam Wall that everyone knows. So there you've got some of the old North Vietnamese aircraft. Got a helicopter and a few fighter jets. Not entirely sure what this building is. I'll be interested to see. I'll have to look it up later. I apologize, I don't know what it is, but that's some of their military machinery. Alright, there you have it. I now have a bag filled with dong. You guys are now looking at me for the first time as a millionaire. I'm a millionaire as of this point. In my bum bag, I hold 2 million dong. So not only became a millionaire once, but I became a millionaire twice. Anyway, enough of me glazing myself. This here is the Notre-Dame Cathedral, and it was built by the French when they were occupying Vietnam. And the idea was that they were trying to convert the Vietnamese into becoming Catholic. And so at the peak, we'll let these guys go, at the peak there was about 15% of the Vietnamese population became Catholic, and there's still a large portion here of Catholic in Saigon at the moment. And they received even more Catholics during the Vietnamese War of Independence, when a lot of Catholics from northern Vietnam, it was almost like the population exchange between Greece and Turkey, where all the Orthodox left Turkey and went to Greece, and all the Muslims living in Greece moved to Turkey. So it was something similar to that, where the Catholics living in the north shifted down to the south because they were worried about being persecuted, and they were worried about the land reforms, because a lot of the Catholics who lived in the north were quite wealthy, and the land reforms were the North Vietnamese government taking their land off them and commonly ending in these land owners being killed. So they fled here to the south, and so Saigon, Ho Chi Minh, now still holds the largest Catholic population in Vietnam. If you're wondering what's in my mouth, it's a minty or some sort of Vietnamese version of it from HSBC. So they've gone and given me some of that, keeping my breath fresh. So if you notice there's something in my mouth, that's what it is. They're all right. They're all right. I can put up with it. So that's the Cathedral of Notre-Dame, the Basilica of the Immaculate Conception, and across the road here we have the Saigon Post Office, which was designed by Alfred Fullox, the French designer. And I read it, here we are. So on the post office they have written the names of famous inventors and scientists, those who took part in communication. So you have Volta over there, Argo, I saw Ampere over here. There it is. Some people find this stuff electrifying. And they also have Ohm and other people around. But we'll come in to the post office. And that man on the wall is Mr. Ho Chi Minh, the man who started the Communist Revolution in the north. And he also fought against the French as well during the first Indochina War with independence against the French. Alright, so there's stamp kiosks over there, but I want to go take a look at these wall paintings over here. So these were also done when the building was first created. So you've got firstly the map over here of Saigon. So this is the central area of Saigon with the map up on there, and on the opposing wall you have the map of South Vietnam. So it's a bit more zoomed out there. Very nice design and very well kept as well. So you got souvenirs there. You can book tours as well. I'm not sure what tours those are. Mekong Delta, Fuji tunnels. We might go there in a few days' time. I don't think I'm gonna have time for the Mekong. But let's go see if we can get some stamps and send a message home to the parents. Sorry, how much is it to send a message back to Australia?
30,000.
30,000. All right, cool. And do I start over here first and then I bring it to you, or do I get the stamp first?
That's right.
Get this.
Get card first.
Do the card first and then come back here.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, let's go choose our card. It's like choosing my starter Pokemon. Let's get something interesting. I want something Vietnamese. I don't want some gimmicky Scarface rubbish or some Totoro. No, we want something Vietnamese. Maybe the man in the rice hat. Okay, so I've picked these ones. I'm going to go write a letter back home. Let's get, I think the family will like that. Let's do this one. All right. Greetings from Vietnam. The roads over here are crazy. All right, so I've written my letter. I'm now going to go and post it away. Chances are I'll probably get home before this letter reaches back, but yes, we'll send it either way. All right, there you go. That was more complicated than it needed to be. Let's see what the family thinks of my letter. All right, so that's everything to see at the post office. So Ho Chi Minh up there, a map of South Indochina here, and a map of Saigon there, and that little area about there, that's where we are in comparison to Saigon. All right, so off to our next destination. All right, because we can't see the cathedral because of all the scaffolding, this was the cathedral when it was finished in 1880, and then they constructed the spires on top in 1895. That's what it looked like for a long period of time, until it started to fall to bits and they needed to refurbish it. So I guess we're coming back to Ho Chi Minh one day once it's gone and finished its refurbishments. But yeah, I guess if you want things to last, you've got to take care of them. So that's that. So here you have it. This is a site of reunification that occurred in 1975 on the 30th of April, the Independence Palace. The Palace of Independence. Now this is where the president would obviously live and where he would do his presidential duties. So the president of the South of Vietnam was Gong Dinh Diem. And he was basically, it was very Western. He was a Catholic president and worked in close collaboration with the United States during that period. And what happened was in 1963, on the 1st of November and the 2nd of November, there was a coup started by the military. And as Diem and his brother Hugh, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, they were fleeing the palace and they were assassinated by one of their high military commanders, a trusted one, and they killed them as they were escaping the palace as the coup was occurring. And it's interesting to note that a month later, JFK got assassinated as well. So I'm going to see if I can get in here and actually take a better look at it. There looks like there's people in there, so we'll go and investigate just a little bit. So here we are. We're now inside the presidential palace, or the Palace of Independence. So it cost me about 80,000 dong to come in. That's somewhere around, I think it's like $5 to get in, Australian. So this grassed area, back on the 30th of April of 1975, the North Vietnamese and the National Liberation Front tanks broke through the gates behind me and stood upon the turf that you see here, and they reclaimed the palace and the south of Vietnam as their own in the fall of Saigon. So this reunified the country under the communist banner and is now what started the current state of Vietnam. Upstairs first to the balcony here. Nice dragon mat. The palace balcony. Let's look at that view. Straight down the street. There you go. Helicopter sitting on the roof. Interesting. Looks like a cinema. Stage. Nice. And you can come up to the roof here. Nice. So this is just those tanks on the 30th of April as they came in and claimed the palace as their own in the name of North Vietnam. Right there. Look at these random rooms. So we're down below the palace at the moment. We're in the bunker. These random halls, and it's a bit of an eerie feeling, really. Now just look at this. This is just eerie. Like, it's exactly as you would expect it to look. The 1960s, 70s. Got the executive chair. Executive bedroom. How narrow these hallways are. Like, this gives me Slender Man vibes. You got more stuff going on down there. Another executive room, more executive communications. It's exactly like you would expect it to look. And what is this? Typewriters. But yeah, it does give you a real unsettling feeling. More radios. So during the bombings in 1975, when the North Vietnamese were closing in, the president at the time was taking refuge in this bunker with his family, and he later resigned in the room upstairs, which we'll go and walk past now and take a look at. It's a very nice room, very pretty room, but he resigned there I think on the 21st of April, and then 9 days later the city fell to the north. And, here we go now. This is the room in which I was telling you before, where the president at the time gave his speech of resignation. So just up there in front of the curtains. It's where the North Vietnamese claimed the South as theirs. That's Ho Chi Minh, right there in the back. So you know how I was talking about the tanks which burst through the gates there? These tanks here, I believe, are the ones that led that charge. This is another one. Tanks. The tanks are identical to the armoured vehicles from Tanks Corps 203, second army that made the famous breakthrough into the palace through the Great Palace Gate on April 1975. Tank 390 T-59 made in China. So, this tank specifically is a replica 390 of the one that first broke through the gates. So you can imagine those proud North Vietnamese soldiers sitting on top of the tank, bursting through the gates to reunify their country under one flag. And after the fall of Saigon in 1975, it was about a year later when the government decided to rename the city in honor of Ho Chi Minh, the man who started the revolution, the man who fought not only in the Vietnamese War, the Vietnam War against the US, but he also started the revolution against the French, in which he won. But unfortunately for Ho Chi Minh, he never got to see the end of the Second Vietnam War against the Americans. He actually passed away in 1969, and his mausoleum is up in Hanoi. So Ho Chi Minh never got to see his country reunified under the one flag, but he got this city named in his honor. Alright, so just down the road, outside the Independence Palace, is the War Remnants Museum. The Remnants Museum in the US Army. This building, it may be the old US Embassy. I don't think it is. I'm going to have to ask and confirm, but it looks like it. And if it is the building I'm thinking of, then during the fall of Saigon, when they knew that it was inevitable that the communists were coming down, they were going to retake the city, they were evacuating, and they had helicopters landing on the roofs of buildings and evacuating the US troops and the US staff, as well as some South Vietnamese citizens who needed to escape. And so there's some very iconic footage of helicopters, Chinooks, which we'll see when we go inside, and the other ones, and they're all taken off the roofs, and they even had guns shooting at them as they were taken off. And something about the helicopters and the evacuation, before I forget, is that there were so many evacuations happening and they're landing on the aircraft carriers parked in the bay, or just outside the bay. Now there wasn't enough room on the aircraft carriers for the helicopters. So what ended up happening was to go and get more people on those boats. They were pushing the helicopters that had just landed into the ocean to make way for the next wave of landing helicopters with another wave of refugees. So just think of all that wreckage and all that money invested in those helicopters that just sunk to the bottom of the ocean. But I guess you can't put a price on human life. So just another interesting thing just about the helicopter evacuation, just in case I don't get to mention it in another part of the video. So we're now inside the museum. So before, we saw the Vietnamese armored vehicles and aircraft. These are now US Army. So that's their tanks. The famous Chinooks, iconic, double propeller design, forward and back, troop carriers, and you've got some of their airplanes here as well. Can ring a bell there. So outside I was talking about the helicopters that were evacuating people off the roofs and being pushed into the ocean as they landed on the aircraft carriers. These were, I believe, one of the specific models that ended up in the bottom of the South China Sea. These planes here are some of the aircraft used by the US. So it's important to note that before the US actually sent ground troops to Vietnam, they commenced Operation Rolling Thunder. And Operation Rolling Thunder was the strategic bombing of the north of Vietnam. And they ended up dropping almost 2 million tons of bombs on the north, which is just as much as what they did, what they dropped on Europe in World War II. So here are some of the Jeeps. Wouldn't mind me one of those. Drive around in. What's happening here? Tiger cages. If there's tigers in here, I'm going to be quite impressed. So this looks like a prison. Oh. Prison. It's a bit messed up. So this fella was the last man to be executed by guillotine under law by the God Din Diem administration. So Ong Hong Lee Khan. No. Ong Lee Khan. So he was a North Vietnamese patriot. And these are the tiger cages in which they would be used to confine prisoners. And not only were they a prison, but they were simultaneously a form of torture. Couldn't imagine myself being caught in one of these. Even got barbed wire on the edges there. Terrible. There you are, some of the bombs. Huge. And I guarantee you that there are plenty of these still lost, unexploded in the Indochina wilderness. Because they not only bombed Vietnam, but they also bombed Cambodia and Laos. Because those were the countries in which the strategic Ho Chi Minh Trail went through. So for those of you who don't know what the Ho Chi Minh Trail was, it was a resupply chain for the North Vietnamese to go and supply their Viet Cong or National Liberation Front allies who lived amongst the citizens of the South. And they typically lived in rural areas where they couldn't be detected, as well as in tunnel systems underneath the forest. It's an APC flamethrower. This would have been used to go and clear terrain. So everyone else has had to turn it. They're ringing this bell, which has been made of a bomb canister. So I'm gonna have my turn. I now have permission from the bell gods to enter the museum. Okay, so that concludes the War Remnants Museum. So I'm not going to post any of the actual inside of the building on the channel. I think all the museum type of things, it just takes up time, and I'll just explain a little bit of what you can expect to find in there. So they've got a few displays of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, the one that went through Laos and Cambodia, and they also have the Ho Chi Minh Sea Trail, which went through the Mekong Delta. So they've got a little recreation of that in there, and it's a lot of just photos, diagrams, maps. Good. I don't know why these guys keep asking I need a lift. I've got feet, I can walk. So I'm doing a lot of walking. Where was I before I got interrupted? So yes, there's a lot about the Ho Chi Minh Trail, the Ho Chi Minh Sea Trail, America's involvement in the war, why they were involved, the domino theory, and also went a lot and focused a lot on the war crimes committed by the Americans. And it also focused on the effects of them. So, as we all know, there's Agent Orange, which they used, which was a pesticide to go clear foliage around suspected Viet Cong sites. And so they had a section which I mean, it's good that they showed and got people aware of the effects of it, but there's some real terrible effects that Agent Orange caused, not to the people it was actually used on, but to their offspring. So all the deformities with kids, and it was terrible. I didn't enjoy that bit too much. It also went a little bit into the USA's involvement in the First Indochina War with the Viet Minh against the French. Now, we can go into that a little bit more in the other videos, but they do touch how the Vietnamese thought that the USA would actually support them in their own independence, but instead they ended up supporting the French. And then when the French decided in 1954, not that they decided, but they remembered that they were French and surrendered to the Vietnamese, rather than help the Vietnamese build their country their way, they implemented a US-backed government, and that was through that president I spoke about, the first president of South Vietnam, Ngo Dinh Diem. Again, don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. So, with the US now, so there is the US Embassy, which I touched on before. That building, the Remnants Museum, is not the old US Embassy. It's still in the same place as today's US Consulate, but the building where the helicopters were evacuating is no longer there. They knocked the building down and they've replaced it. So we'll just go take a look at that. It's closer to the Cathedral of Notre-Dame and the post office, so I should have done that at first. So now I'm walking an extra 20 minutes there and 20 minutes back to my hotel, but that's fine. I'm going to be having plenty of tasty Vietnamese food and Vietnamese beer over this trip, so might as well burn some calories. So it's good to know that the bikes here are just like the bikes in Australia. Well, not really, these ones got motors. They decide that they're a vehicle when they want to be a vehicle, and when they don't want to be a vehicle, they're a pedestrian. I guess it's the same everywhere. Except at least these guys are smart enough to go use a motor and not their own legs. Look at that. I should have stayed here. Thai group is taking their inspiration from Greek mythology. That's Zeus with a lightning bolt. Looks like maybe Hermes with the wings. Maybe Aphrodite or Athena with the deer. I should have stayed here. I mean, probably 10,000 times more expensive than every other hotel in Vietnam. That would have been really nice to stay in. Oh well, next time, maybe if I get a few more subscribers, maybe we'll start seeing some luxury resorts. But yeah, if you like the way we do things, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow along for the journey, and yeah, if you got any recommendations for places you want to see, just put them in the comments, because I never actually thought I'd end up in Vietnam, but I've ended up here, never really had any interest in it in the past, but someone recommended look into the history, and you look into it and you go down this massive rabbit hole and you realize that there's so much, not only in terms of the US history, but also in their own ancient medieval history, the way they do things with culture, their big coffee culture. They also have their foods. You got to look into how the French influenced the food with banh mi. You also look into their noodles dishes. As we go up the coast, you'll see specific locations do things slightly different as well. And I really look forward to trying the coffee in future videos. I don't think I'm going to do that one today because I've already done a lot of legwork, and I don't think I'm going to have time to sit down and have a coffee, because there's one more place I want to go see after this, and I'm not sure if it's still going to be open. Okay, so across the road is the US consulate, known as the US Embassy, and this is a new consulate. It's still the same location that was used during the Vietnam War, and where the helicopters were being evacuated from the roofs of the building. You had people during the fall of Saigon outside the walls trying to get in and trying to get on these helicopters. Even though it is the same location, the building inside is actually different. It got demolished after the war and it's been rebuilt. So it's not really the same building, so it doesn't have the same effect, but it is the same location. The evacuation of Saigon and of the South Vietnamese was actually poorly executed, and it was because of the US ambassador at the time, Graham Martin, who believed that Saigon could still survive. It could still fend off the North Vietnamese forces, and so he left the evacuation way too late. Now, he did escape Vietnam with his life, but he is criticized for his poor execution of the evacuation, and the fact that he left it way too late and probably costed a lot of people their lives because of it. So that's the location there. Now, the famous photo isn't actually taken here of the helicopters rising up off the roofs. It's actually further down, back where the HSBC building is. So back here outside, the post office again. And the Cathedral just finished playing a very beautiful tune. I think it was Ode to Joy. It's been a while since I've done classical music. But anyway, this is the bank again, the HSBC bank. And it is said that it was these apartments over here where the famous helicopter photo and footage was taken. So, the Cho Ben 10 markets. They sell the Omnitrix there. No, okay, so this is the last location that I'm going to do today. It's basically a cheap market, and it's known for selling cheap knockoffs of a lot of designer items. So I'm going to walk through here, see if there's anything that sparks my interest. But yes, again, just one of those places you have to visit if you're coming here to Ho Chi Minh City. It's 100% real, all this stuff. They just get it for cheaper here. Hello. But wow, look at that crocodile. Very cool. Look how amazing it is. So pretty. But yeah, it's even got fruit and everything here. It's not just cheap designer stuff. I mean, I've only brought a backpack with me. Oh my god, okay. Okay, so if I buy too much stuff, I'm gonna have to buy check-in Minions suitcase. Fantastic, very excited. So I have a little bit more of a walk here, but again, I'm not gonna do too much recording, just to give you guys an idea of what the market looks like, what to expect. Very noisy. You have these smoothie places, so for drinks. Durian, that food stinks like hell. Very famous in Singapore as well. You can get a pipe here. But yeah, it's all just shopping. So I'm not going to go and clog up vlog footage with shopping, but I'm going to stay here for a little bit, have a look around, and I might show you guys the haul. All right, I think I lasted about 10 minutes. I've been overstimulated. I don't know what's going on. I'm exhausted today. I've come directly from my flight to touring the city on foot. I'll come back probably tomorrow and do some shopping, because right now there's too many thousands of there's too many dongs in my face. Thousands and thousands of dong, which only amounts to like a few Australian dollars, but you know, I don't even know if I'm buying something out of impulse because it's so cheap. So I'll come back tomorrow and I'll do the shopping then. But yeah, it's very, very overstimulating. So before I unpack all my stuff, this is the room. No window, but I'm on the 11th floor. So if there was a window, it'd be a pretty sick view. It's only 12 floors high, and breakfast is served on the 12th floor. So at least I'll get the view then, but I'm only sleeping here and I haven't been here all day, so it's fine. It does the job perfectly fine, so there's nothing to complain. You can take a view of me while I'm taking my business. Alright, but I'm going to have a shower and everything and get prepped for tonight. I'm going to be back somewhat early because I've got the tour at 8 AM in the morning, and that's another big day. So Ho Chi Minh are all my big days. Once we get, Da Nang's also got big day. It's always big days. It's all big days. This series is going to be quite hectic, but that's fine. Not sure how today's footage turned out. I'm going to review that, but we'll see you in tomorrow's vlog if I don't do any recording tonight.